ESPN.com. Senior NFL insider KC Joyner here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. All right, my friend, how are you?
Well, I think I'm better than probably most Eagles fans because that was ugly, man.
We got people asking for Foles to get back into this. That was my mentions today. My mentions last night had, wake up, Foles should be the quarterback. It's your fault that you were calling for Wentz.
Oh man, that's why it's Overreaction Monday, you know.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: first half, awful, putrid. Second half, they looked like maybe they were turning a corner. Did you see a light in that second half that you could build off of, or is there some discouraging trends that you see with this team that are continuous problems week to week?
I did see a light in the second half. I got the impression in the first half that you figure Wentz is only in he was rusty in the first game back. He's better in the second game, and I think that Peterson's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead. I've got Wentz. I want to make this more of a Wentz-centric offense. And a lot more passing than I thought they'd have. And it's, guys, the strongest suit of that defense is their secondary, is talent in their secondary. I know they struggled against the Rams. You're not the Rams. You don't have their receiving talent. But I thought they were doing things that they shouldn't do and weren't going for a type of game plan that I think they should have gone for. And they established a run earlier this year, and it worked for them. In the second half, I thought they said, okay, we're going to run that run game plan, even though the scoreboard says we shouldn't. And that worked a lot better.
In the first half of the game, sloppy penalties, all that stuff. I mean, you look at what went wrong in the first half. Is this them, the Vikings defense, Doug Peterson not, play calling very well? What you see in the first half that was such a struggle?
I thought that they didn't run the ball very well. I thought that they didn't try and run the ball very well. The run defense was Minnesota figured out what to do against the run defense. By the way, it was a bit of a concern. We've talked in past years about how Philadelphia's always had a very good blocking rate, meaning you don't get very many opportunities to get good gains against them because you can't block very well against them. But when the other teams do get a good blocking rate, they ended up with a high good blocking yards per attempt. Minnesota did that in the first half. They were hitting some big plays in the rushing game. What they were doing, they said, we're not going to attack your front seven. We're going to the outside. We're going to throw screens to the outside. We're going to do wide rushing plays. And the way you stop that, obviously, is you get your safeties over, but you usually get your corners up there. Philadelphia wasn't getting their corners up there, and Minnesota got enough gains on the ground on the outside to make Philadelphia have to respect the ground game. So that was a concern, too. You don't want to see them give up a lot of big plays in the ground game.
Carson Wentz, he played pretty well. I don't think he's not playing at the MVP level he was. Okay, is he playing at that level and the others around him aren't matching him? Or is he just down a peg?
I think he's still a bit down a peg, but you've got to. What does he have receiving wise? He's still Alshon does not look back to what he was. You still don't have you have Ertz, but that's it. You don't have any on top receivers. They gave him good pass blocking yesterday too. I was a little concerned about their pass blocking. Overall, I know they had some problems with pass blocking, but overall, only had a 24% pass pressure rate. It was ninth best in this past weekend. So they gave him decent pass blocking. I just still don't think they have enough vertical weapons. And again, I question the game plan in the first half. I think they were like, we want to make this a Wentz-centric offense. Don't make it that yet. You need to make this a run-first offense. You need to make this a run-heavy offense, and have Wentz throw off of that because this is not. You're not the Rams. You don't have that talent.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about the running, the assortment of running backs. Ajayi, Corey Clement, who didn't play yesterday, when Sproles gets back, and Wendell Smallwood, who had 3 carries for 27 yards. That's 9 yards a carry. Last week he had about 6 yards a carry. I mean, do they have an assortment? Because people keep mentioning Le'Veon Bell. We keep getting people texting in about different running backs. Do the Eagles have a problem at running back?
They have a huge problem at running back because their good blocking rate, which is how often they get good blocking, they've had quality good blocking rates. They had over 50% week 2. They had 50% week 3, close to 50% week 4. They were well over 50% yesterday, and 43% is the league average. So they're doing much better than an average as far as good blocking rate. But the good blocking yards per attempt in the league, the average, how much you gain when you get good blocking is 7.7. Eagles were 7.3 in week 1, 6.5 in week 2, 7.1 in week 3, 7.5 in week 4, 5.7 in week 5. They've not even reached the league average once in good blocking yards per attempt. They're not getting the gains they should get. You think Bell's going to solve the problem? He's been below 7.7 in each of the past 2 years. He wouldn't solve the problem.
Is this an offensive line problem? I mean, in the run game? Or I don't know. They're just not doing it enough. It seems that they do run the ball pretty well when they do. They had 12 rushes yesterday.
They're getting good blocking, and I saw on the play where Ajayi fumbles. It was a perfect example. You grade that play, and it's a crowded box because of where they are on the field and things. So he doesn't have a ton of room, but he had room to make one cut and go. He started to make the cut, saw the safety coming up, tried to make a second cut, kind of tripped over himself, and then fumbled. Be decisive. One cut and go. On that play, it's just is that going to play one cut and go? And that's what the running backs are doing, I think, is they're not being as decisive as they should. They're trying to make these bigger plays. The blocking's there. Get what the blocking is giving you, because if you're trying to make these other big plays, you don't have the people to do that.
All right. Now, you look at on the defensive side. Now, I thought the defense played pretty well yesterday. They give up 16 points. The 7 came from the turnover from Wentz. He fumbles the ball. They return it for a touchdown. They really give up 16. A bunch of field goals were missed. Overall, did you think that their defense at least was a bright spot in the game? Or, Mills got beat again, the 68-yarder to Thielen. Thielen had a big day. They had a couple of runs late. They did give up a lot of trips to the red zone. They all ended up with 3 for the most part. But what'd you think of their defense yesterday?
I thought the defense we've talked about it in the past, where they can make great plays most of the time, and they give up the big plays, and giving up the big plays will cause you to lose the game. Talk about Mills there. Mills made some good plays. He was pretty
good in the red zone. It's outside of the red zone he gets beat.
You get him a compacted field, he's fine. If you say you only have so much ground to cover, then he's in good shape. But he has problems there. I didn't like what I saw from the ground game. Again, Minnesota only had a good blocking rate of just under 40%, so that's actually not that good compared to what I expected Philadelphia to do in this contest. I expect them to dominate them because Minnesota had one of the lowest good blocking rates in the league coming in this contest, and Philadelphia had, I think, the second highest good blocking rate allowed coming in this contest. I expected it to be more, but they also allowed 9 yards per attempt. You can't. That's what's been the problem in the past. Is you get around that 9 or 10 yard mark in good blocking yards per attempt, you're giving up too many big plays. So you're giving up too many big plays in the passing game and the running game. It's enough to make this Vikings offense that should have been one-dimensional, two-dimensional.
Yeah, and the fact is, we thought that the Eagles' defensive front would have dominated in this game. They only had 1 sack. I mean, they did pressure Cousins. I thought Cousins played pretty well, but I thought the Eagles' front four would be more of a factor in this. Were you surprised that they weren't more of a factor? And they had 1 sack in the game yesterday.
Very surprised. The Eagles had a 20.5% pass pressure rate, the 6th lowest total in Week 5. Just terrible. Part of that was because the Vikings weren't throwing many long passes. They only had 5.8 yards per attempt, 5.8 air yards per attempt, the 2nd lowest in Week 5. So that was part of the issue, but you still got to be able to get more pressure than that. And they only got a quarterback contact. They only were able to make contact on Cousins 4.9% of the time, 6th lowest rate. So a lot of dinking and dunking from the Vikings, but you still got to be able to get after the quarterback better than that.
All right. And then overall, I mean, you look at 5 games in, they're 2-3. Is there certain trends that you see that are concerning moving forward here, or is there some good things that you're seeing that, hey, once they get rid of these penalties, that this team should turn a corner, or do you see too many concerning trends that this team might be in some trouble?
They can stop the run really well. They've got the makings. If you've got a good offensive line, if you can run block well, and they have run block well, if you can run block well, you can control the line of scrimmage there. I think they're just a different team than they were last year. We're going to stop the run. We're going to be able to run the ball. They sit back and play shell defenses. I don't know what they do with Mills. They can't keep giving up those big plays because that'll cause them to lose 2 or 3 games alone if he keeps playing like he's playing. So they need to figure out the problem for Mills. So if they figure out Mills and they keep stopping the run and keep running the ball, and I think they're going to have the makings of a much better season. But this is going to be the type of – this is 22-19. That's the kind of games you're going to be winning with this team. You're not going to be getting in high-scoring games this year. They just don't have the tools.
And that's the one thing. Their defense last year played well at home, didn't play as well on the road. I think they gave up 13 points a game at home, 26 points a game on the road. Their offense was able to make up for it. If their defensive splits are the same, I don't think they have the offense to make up for it in these road games, and you're looking at maybe an 8-8, 9-7 type of team.
Yeah, exactly. They do not have a high-powered offense. They need to be playing the type of system where we need to be playing for these low-scoring games that they expect it. And maybe, again, you hope that works itself out because you want to get the vertical game going, but you don't have it right now. and you just got to get into those. You don't have the type of receivers to get open deep. Maybe you hope Wallace comes back. Maybe you can get more going with Jeffrey when he gets fully healthy, and you got Ertz and things. So you can do some things, but I think they need to show that they got the creativity to adjust to their situation. Because yesterday, I think they tried to play like they were the 2017 Eagles, and they're not.
No, and there's a couple things. I mean, the Bennett call. Your thoughts on that? I mean, awful. McCauley tweets out that he thinks it's the wrong call. Coleman, who's the official yesterday, told the poll reporter that there was force. I mean, those plays are affecting games.
They are, and but you look at that, and you also look at when the Eagles were down 20-14 after that great they went for 2 points, they made it, and then they've got they're in they've got recovered that fumble, and now they're in the scoring position, and Gibson doesn't he's not on the line of scrimmage like he should be. The referees' calls are bad, but when I see Gibson, who only played 9 plays yesterday, when he's off the line of scrimmage and it looks and they get an illegal formation play that ruins a 6-yard gain, would have set up a 2nd and 4 at the 24, would have probably kicked a field goal there, and you could have had a different situation at the end of the game to be winning the game. It's things like that. It's those mental errors that say, okay, that's another thing a team can work on too, is that because that and the sack was a play where they shouldn't have, where Lane Johnson just got totally crushed to the inside and was overplaying the outside. You can do some of these mental things better to make those corrections. So that's what I'm worried about a little more than about an official's call.
By the way, some breaking news with the Eagles. They have placed Jay Ajayi on injured reserve.
Wow.
So I don't know if this has to do with him opening his mouth, if because he did claim they should run the ball more. He was vocal about that. He came off the field with a knee yesterday, but did go back in. He had the back issues, but placing him on injured reserve, I don't know.
When that play I mentioned earlier where he was near the goal line and such, where he tried to do a cutback, it was an awkward cutback, and I even wondered and go, I wonder if he might have hurt himself there, A, and B, I got a couple times there where it looked like, just watching him, was like, I don't know that this guy wants contact. I think it's like he's trying to avoid contact, and probably trying to, not because he's not tough, because we all know he's tough. He's proven that. But if you're hurt or you think you're close to getting hurt, you might try and avoid contact to try to not get hurt. So I don't want to say it's not a surprise they put him there, but there were things on tape showing up. That's one of the reasons that good blocking yards for attempts is as low as it is, because he just hasn't been hitting the hole.
That's a big one there. All right, KC Joyner's here with us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Let's take a look at Week 5 and get your take on the games. First, let's look at tonight. Washington has a chance to take a nice step in the right direction in this division. They got the Saints on the road. This game last year, I think the two teams played last year, a pretty entertaining game down there in New Orleans. Might have gone to overtime. So you look at the Redskins, to me, they're the safe team. They run the ball, and they got Smith, a guy who wins a lot. Is that the recipe for beating New Orleans?
That is, but New Orleans has arguably the best rush defense in the league right now, according to advanced run metrics. They were first in my run block or my run defense metrics after Week 4. So I think they're going to be able to stop Washington's ground game, and Washington's going to have to throw the ball more. The funny thing is, the Saints are going to want to run the ball more, and that Ingram's back, and their run block has been fantastic the last 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of styles each two teams play. But I do expect New Orleans to win.
By the way, Jay Ajayi tore his ACL.
Oh. I still wonder if it was on that one play trying to do that odd cutback. I wonder if that might have been it.
You know what's weird? You saw him on the sideline. He was kind of like kicking his leg, and you wonder if he was playing on a torn ACL yesterday in that second half of that game.
He may have. It might not even been in that play. It might have just been he couldn't make the cutback he wanted to make because he was already hurt. Yeah, it's not. Like I said, that's why the good blocking yards for attempts are down, because he's just not what he was.
All right, let's look through the games from yesterday. A lot of surprises. This one, Bills, at home. I get it. They're at home, beat the Titans. The Titans have a nice win against the Eagles. They play well, and then they go on the road. What happens?
What happens is Buffalo's got a really good defense. Their offense stinks, but they've got a really good defense, and the Titans are the type of team that want to play that kind of low-scoring slugfest game, and they played exactly the kind of game that Buffalo wanted them to play and allowed Buffalo to get a win.
You go to Cincinnati, who is 4-1 now. They beat the Dolphins. Are we starting to buy into Cincinnati?
I did my ESPN power rankings we do each week, and we have to submit them on Monday afternoon, and I submitted Cincinnati as number 3 in my power rankings. That's how much I believe in them. Yeah, they're that good on defense, on offense. I think they can play even better than what they're playing right now if they get fully healthy.
They scored 24 points in the fourth quarter to win that game. I mean, unbelievable.
And the Dolphins are a paper tiger. That team is nowhere near as good as their record indicates, and they should have won that game, but I think they'll be losing a lot more games this year.
What happened to Baltimore? I had them in my Fine Five. I was starting to buy into them, and they throw a stinker up yesterday against Cleveland.
Cleveland's defense is really, really good. Their offense is not, but it's really, really good. And yesterday they were able to get Baltimore to play again the type of game that a low-scoring game that they can win. If you can score enough points against Cleveland, I don't care what they did against Oakland because Oakland's the worst team in the league, but if you can score enough points against Cleveland, their offense usually can't keep up with Baltimore. I'm surprised they couldn't, but Cleveland's defense can make you play that kind of game too.
What happened to Green Bay? I know they missed 5 kicks, but they gave up 31 points to the Lions.
They gave up 31 points to the Lions, and they missed 5 kicks, and they had 2 of the receivers gone, and Adams was playing to hurt, and Rodgers makes it look like that they aren't missing anybody. The problem for them, though, is that when you're missing that many people, and Detroit, by the way, Detroit can run the ball exceptionally well. They don't get a credit for it, but they've got a top-notch offensive line, and they're doing it very well there. So I think Green Bay just had too many wide receiver injuries to really make that thing go.
All right, the Chiefs, this was the game of the weekend here. You had the Chiefs up against the Jaguars. What'd you learn in this one?
Learn that the Jaguars' defense, when you start looking at advanced metrics this year, they're not doing anywhere near as well as they had in past years. They got a 31.7% pass pressure rate yesterday, but they really didn't get that much pressure on Mahomes. They only had a quarterback contact rate of 4.3%, which was 5th lowest in last week's game. So the Jaguars defense is not near as good as it's made out to be right now.
Ooh, all right. What's going on with the Denver Broncos? That's not like they're a great team, but they got whipped on the road in New York against a pretty bad team.
I think that says more about the Jets because I just did an article for ESPN's Plus section on a fantasy football perspective, inquiring as to whether or not Isaiah Crowell can do what he did yesterday. He had the first 200-yard-plus rushing game of the 2018 season. I think that the Jets' offense, when you start looking at their metrics, it shows that they are really that good. They've got a fantastic run-blocking group, and I think that they were able to control that game because of that.
Falcons fall to 1-4. Steelers, if you were watching them the first couple of weeks, same kind of conversation we're having about the Eagles, and then you see them yesterday, and it's like, all right, Steelers are back. What's wrong with the Falcons, and what do we think about the Steelers?
Falcons cannot handle power rushing, and the Steelers yesterday had a 51.3% good blocking rate. It was their best good blocking rate of the season. They were able to control the line of scrimmage. I think they got back to Steelers football, which is we're going to pound you with the run, and then we are going to go vertical. We're going to be aggressive in both areas. They were trying to be too pass-happy before that. And at Atlanta, their defense, and you're missing your 2 safeties, you're missing the linebacker, and they can't handle power games and such, and their offense is still more hit and miss than they give credit for. I just think that I think that's a team that's badly set up for the rest of the year.
Panthers beat the Giants on a 63-yard field goal. Eagles play the Giants coming up. We'll have more on this game coming up later on in the week. But when you look at the Giants going to Carolina, Carolina wins the game, but were you impressed with the Giants finally putting up over 30? I mean, is this a team that the Eagles should be concerned about Thursday night?
Thinking about the Giants, one of the things that stood out, I'm impressed about a lot of things, and their offensive line's playing quite well, but the Panthers had the lowest pass pressure rate allowed this past week against the Giants, and the Giants have been 8th in pass pressure rate allowed. Now, I don't know. I think that says how good the Panthers' blocking is, but I wonder if it says that the Giants' pass rush isn't as good as anticipated, because if the Giants get only that type of pass rush against the Eagles will be okay, but if the Giants get the pass rush they did before that game, I think the Eagles might be in some trouble.
I'm going to stay on the Giants real fast because the Eagles do have them coming up this week. You heard the comments whether from Odell Beckham. He said, hey, it's great catching passes from Eli, but I want to go down the field. Is Eli not – is he not that quarterback today at this time of his career that can get the ball down the field, or are they just not calling that type of play?
Yesterday they threw, if my memory serves correct, 14 targets to Odell Beckham, and 5 of those targets – Eli threw when he was under significant pass rush pressure, and they were all incomplete. Eli decided to overreact to what Odell said, and I think he started forcing the ball to him. That's not a very wise move. I think Eli can get the ball downfield, but you don't want him forcing the ball to Odell in the situations like that, because some of those are going to start turning into picks. So I think they need to involve Odell more in the offense than they had, but forcing it to him is not the answer.
You draft a guy number 2 overall. Shouldn't you get him a little bit more involved?
You should, and their run blocking has been solid, but I still don't understand. This is 1972 football. Why you trying to make a running back-centric offense? This is a quarterback-centric league. They're going to regret not having drafted Darnold.
Chargers beat the Raiders. All sorts of problem in Oakland with Gruden and this Raiders team. Chargers get to 3-2, and that's a team that typically a slow starter. So Chargers obviously in the mix with that victory, but the Raiders having all sorts of issues.
Raiders, I got the Chargers. I think I had them 11th or 10th in those power rankings. It was one of the tougher rankings because I didn't know how high to put them, but they're right up there. They're starting to crawl to the top 10 if they're not there yet. And the Raiders are just terrible. There's a meme on Twitter going around, or a video on Twitter where it's from the game where Rivers is calling out to the Raiders defense. He's mocking them for what a basic defense they're playing. I mean, that's how bad things are. The quarterback is mocking you on national television, saying what a terrible defense you have. That says a lot about the Raiders.
Cardinals get a win, their first of the season on the road. Josh Rosen, look, the rookie quarterbacks, I think they all won yesterday.
They did. Josh Rosen is solid. Christian Kirk caught that big pass. They've been involving him in the offense more. He's a guy who's a vertical threat in college, and he's going to, I think, be a pretty good vertical threat in the NFL. So that was a big plus for them. The ground game's better than people think. The rush defense is better than people think. I'm not saying the Cardinals are turning things around, but I jumped them from close to the bottom of the league. I think I'm like 24th and with like 8 spots in the power rankings because they're starting to play a lot better. And Rosen, you can see something for the future. I don't think they're going to be much in 2018, but you can see why he could be a quarterback in the future for them.
Seahawks gave the Rams all they could handle on the road, but the Rams persevere and get out of that game. What have we learned in this one?
The Rams can lose Kupp, they can lose Cooks, they can give up all the points that they gave up. They can face a Seattle team that's playing a lot better in a lot of ways, and they still go out and find a way to win. The Rams are still my number 1 team in the power rankings.
And it should be. And then Cowboys lose last night, overtime. They have a chance to go for it, 4th down. They don't. Texans take advantage. They win the game 19-16. It looked like 2 bad teams last night.
It did, and I just don't. I'll tell you, the one thing that we talk about, the percentages of whether you should go for it or not. What the play call by Garrett did last night, it did 2 things. 1, he went against the percentages of going for it on 4th down and lost that game for him. But 2, he did increase his odds according to the overseas booking of being the first coach to get fired this year. His odds shot up in that because that's just a horrible call. You got to trust your offense in that situation.
Washington and the Saints, and then Thursday Night Football, Eagles take on the Giants. We'll have plenty more on Friday's edition with KC Joyner right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. All right, my friend, enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk Friday.
Sounds good, man.